Hi, I'm Ryan Moody. Thank you for joining me. And today we're going to examine just what really is a new creature. And of course, this refers to the popular verse 2 Corinthians 5:17, which says, "Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new." And so people go around calling themselves new creatures. But let's understand this verse in context with the previous verses. So, looking at verses 14, 15, and 16, leading up to this verse 17, Paul says in verse 14, "For the love of Christ constraineth us, because we thus judge that if one died for all, then we're all dead, and that he died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves, but unto him which died for them and rose again. Wherefore, henceforth know we no man after the flesh. Yea, though we have known Christ after the flesh, yet now henceforth know we him no more." So let's first ask ourselves the question, what does Paul mean by after the flesh? Because he said that twice in there. Henceforth know we no man after the flesh, though we have known Christ after the flesh. Well, this refers to something that's a little foreign to our understanding nowadays, but it was a huge issue back then. And it's whether a man was circumcised in his flesh or not. In Ephesians 2:11, for example, Paul says, "Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands." Back then, there was much friction between the circumcised and the uncircumcised. It was a huge issue back then. So then also, twice in verse 14, Paul said that Christ died for all. So in context, died for all means for both circumcised and the uncircumcised. He died for everyone, whether we're circumcised or not. So when he said, "Henceforth know we no man after the flesh," it's that from Christ's death, he died for all. From his death going forward, henceforth, we should no longer distinguish anyone after the flesh, whether they're circumcised or uncircumcised. But then he says, "Yea," or yes, "though we have known Christ after the flesh." See, we knew Christ as a circumcised Jewish man living under the law, yet now, henceforth know we him no more. So since his death, we don't know him that way anymore as a circumcised man sent to the circumcised people. See, there was one time a Canaanite woman came to him for help, and in Matthew 15:24, Jesus, he answered and said, "I am not sent but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." So at that time, Christ was distinguished as a circumcised man sent to the circumcised people. Paul said in Romans 15, verses 8 and 9, "Now I say that Jesus Christ was a minister of the circumcision for the truth of God, to confirm the promises made unto the fathers, and that the Gentiles might glorify God for his mercy, as it is written, For this cause I will confess thee among the Gentiles, and sing unto thy name." So he ministered to the circumcised so that ultimately all people, Gentiles included, would glorify God. Excuse me. Now, when Paul said in verse 17, at the beginning of verse 17, "Therefore, if any man be in Christ," it was the conclusion of what he just said. In other words, the first part of verse 17 is the concluding thought of verse 16. So let's read it that way. So let's read verse 16 and then the first part of verse 17 together as one thought. "Wherefore, henceforth know we no man after the flesh, yea, though we have known Christ after the flesh, yet now henceforth know we him no more. Therefore, if any man be in Christ." See, if any man be in Christ means whether they're circumcised or uncircumcised, that we don't know them after the flesh anymore. Now, looking at the next part of verse 17. So the first part is, "Therefore, if any man be in Christ," which is actually finishing the thought of verse 16. Then it says, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. Well, in verse 17, those two words, he is, in the King James, are italicized, indicating that it's not in the Greek text, that the translators added those words to help us understand it better. But unfortunately, it does just the opposite here. And we'll come back to that in a minute about those two words, he is. But going to the next word, the Greek noun katesis, which is translated here as creature, it appears 19 times in the New Testament and is used for either a creature, a created being, or the entire creation itself. And of course, the context determines which it is. Now, since 2 Corinthians 5:17 has he is, that was added by the translators, and then the word creature, of course it sounds like it's a created person, a created being, or a person. And in fact, most Bible versions contain he is in the verse. They add that in there. And a few even have the word person in there. However, the context here indicates it's not about a person or a individual created being. It's about the entire creation itself. So the rest of the verse, the last part of verse 17 says, old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. You see, it's talking about the renewing of this cursed creation. So looking at a couple of verses in Revelation 21 verse 1 says, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And then in verse 4, Revelation 21:4, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. There shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. So both of the, in verse Revelation 21:1 and 4, both verses say passed away. So this is talking about the entire creation being renewed. A new heaven and a new earth. It's not that the current heaven and the current earth are going to be completely destroyed and then recreated all over again, but that the current heaven and earth will be renewed into a glorious state going forward. So back in 2 Corinthians 5:17, when it says old things are passed away, the old things that are passed away are death, sorrow, crying, and pain, which is Revelation 21:4. There shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. So 2 Corinthians 5:17 really is saying a renewed creation, not a new creature, a renewed creation or a new creation. Old things are passed away, behold, all things are become new. It's not about a person becoming some kind of a new creature. It's about the entire creation itself being renewed in the end. So what's Paul saying in this passage anyway? What's the point? Well, he's saying that in the renewed creation, when this whole creation, the heavens and the earth are renewed, there will be no distinction whatsoever between circumcision and uncircumcision. Those things will all be passed away. Therefore, we should no longer be making that distinction now, which is what he said. Wherefore, henceforth, know we no man after the flesh. Since Christ died, we don't know him that way anymore, and we shouldn't know each other that way anymore. We shouldn't be dividing based on whether we're circumcised or not. We should be at peace with one another in unity. And Paul said the same to the Galatians. Galatians 6:15, for in Christ Jesus neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creature. And of course, again, there, it's not creature, it's creation. And he's saying the same thing. And I like how the Net Bible has Galatians 6:15. It says, for neither circumcision nor uncircumcision counts for anything. The only thing that matters is a new creation. So circumcision and uncircumcision won't matter in the renewed creation. Therefore, it shouldn't matter now. And that's what 2 Corinthians 5:17 is really saying. But that's not how it's being used today. People go around calling themselves new creatures. But it's really not people's fault. because Bibles are mistranslated, and preachers responsible for teaching and preaching this correctly, they don't. So that is the message, and I hope that helps you and blesses you. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, may God richly bless you.